Toby is a creator and maker within the product world, driven by aesthetics and design. He is currently engaged with the game design agency Playful Solution, and he's working on various projects for clients like Red Bull and Siemens. He also co-created the design feedback software Tvecker.io, I hope I pronounced it right. And he's part of the hosting team of the International Design Conference in Vienna. Toby has been also recently accepted to the Strategic Design program at the Parsons School of Design in New York City. Congrats, Toby, this is really amazing, and wow, like, congratulations. I'm really, really happy for you. And yeah, today in his webinar, Toby is ready to share his insights into the product design strategy with you, Pirates. So this is all from me. Now the stage is yours, Toby. Enjoy, everyone, and have fun.
Thanks for the nice introduction, and thanks for having me. I guess I'll just start right into it. Let's talk about product strategy. I'll quickly start with a short introduction to the whole topic, so we're on the same page here. And then I'll basically structure the next half an hour around certain phases, I guess, you go through when you design products from scratch. I'll try to make this as hands-on as possible. So my hope is that you can take a few pieces out of this session and apply them on your next brainstorming sessions, on your big plans. And also, as Annette already mentioned, if there's anything unclear, if I talk too fast or if you've got any questions, just raise your hand in Zoom. And then I think Annette can unlock your camera then for asking a question. Cool, so product strategy. My personal definition is that it's the path from a first idea to a final result. But as a quick spoiler already, product strategy is a process everyone is doing in their own way. I've done a few iterations of this path already, and when I look back, I can see some kind of repeating structures that kind of happen all the time. So that's basically what I want to share with you today, these underlying structures when you create something out of a first idea, how this process works. So when I talk about a product, I actually talk about ideas where you might want to make something. That can be a small party, that can be an event. It might be a talk you're giving or a school project. It can also be a big company launching a new service or your startup you're just about to start off, to kick off. So product strategy is a very broad term that comes down to, I want to make something, let's plan how that might look like and how it might work out. All right. Back in 2018, I was event director of a sports event where we spent about 1.5 years in prior shaping and molding how this event should run down, which is product design. We were designing the best experience for our competitors from 22 countries. Same with the Off Festival, Annette already mentioned. I'm more involved on an operational level here, but every year we come up with new improvements, how we could increase the value of our festival for our visitors, for speakers, how we increase the value for sponsors and partners, how we can improve it for local artists, and also for ourselves as hosts. This is product design. 2 years ago, I've also started building digital products, which are probably an even more illustrative example of product strategy. With Tweaker.io, we build a digital browser-based tool where designers and copywriters can gather feedback on their work in a visual way. We were five friends from school. We started this project, and our initial starting point was to solve the issue of, when you're a designer, that you have a first draft and you send it in a WhatsApp group, and then you get like 100 messages back, and it's confusing, and you always have to scroll up to the image again to get the feedback. So that was the issue, the struggle we had as a starting point. But we had no idea in the beginning what medium or technology we might use. So we just had the issue we wanted to tackle. We then spent about like a year shaping and molding this product as it now exists. And we've done so much wrong throughout these 12 months. It's actually incredible. But that's part of the game, I guess. Afterwards, you're always smarter. But I hope I can give you now a few insights into these learnings. So you and also hopefully me, and we don't make these mistakes again. All right. So generally speaking, there are 3 parts. I can't really move my mouse on this presentation, but let's focus on the left side here. There are three parties involved when you create something. There's you, person, or the person who is envisioning something she wants to do. There might be a team, your partners, your team who is supporting you to create your product. And then there is the user, which can be you. Obviously, maybe that's because you started to create a solution because you had an issue with something. But it's important to keep in mind that this is not just you. Users, also there's an audience out there. On the x-axis, you see the structure, the phases of building something from scratch I was talking about. Everyone has a different name for each phase, and it's clearly like they obviously don't happen as clean and separated as they appear here. But if you speak to any product owner, they can identify at least some of these phases up there. When you look at these phases, without any explanation so far, you have the vision, you ideate, you create a product idea, you prototype your first ideas, you go into production, you polish them and really release and ship them. When do you think you actually know how your final product will look like? And the funny thing is, like, you never know. Maybe after shipping and after growing, that's about when you have an idea of what you're actually about to grow into a sustainable business or venture here. But this is after shipping, way after shipping. And this is probably one of the most single important messages today. We'll go into the whole process now, but as a spoiler, when you envision something new, it is always a bet. And you probably your idea will take 10 turns before you actually ship it. And when you're standing in the very beginning, when you have just this tiny idea and probably you already have like this image in your mind, it ain't gonna happen like that. You will learn so much throughout this phase. So let's say you have this idea. In our case, we wanted to streamline the feedback process on visual work. And when I start a new project, the question always is, how do I know if that's even a good thing to work on? Is it worth it? Is it, we spent so much time thinking about, is this really worth it working on? And from the back, like from now, viewing back, a basic mindset is very important for me. Be aware that when you create something from scratch, this is not about attaining certainty. There is no way for you to know what the final result will be. And whatever final even is, right? You can never be sure if your idea will work out in the end. Let's say it does work, but what does it is working mean? What does make something work? How many weekly active users are a success in the end after the launch? What engagement rate do you call it? Do you call it a success instead of a failed try? So what I'm trying to say is that you can never be certain if it's worth if you're working on it. And for me, it's about going into it and being open for whatever comes. And this is a very different approach than, I guess, you call it the old way. You could research and research until you have like 99% certainty that your idea is going to work. You got to ask your customers and do all these customer research and feedback processes. But let's be real here. On one hand, that's very expensive in the sense of you spend or waste a lot of time. It's very slow, obviously. And on the other hand, you're just as likely to be wrong as when you're kind of sure-ish that you're on the right solution. Your odds of success ain't getting higher. If I put this in an example, I stole this from a stream, I think, about this whole topic. When you play roulette in a casino, you have no chance to increase your odds of winning. You can put 100 euros on the color, and that's about it. Like chances are 50-50 and you can't influence that. When I play roulette, there is only one thing I can truly control, and that is how much I might lose. If I put 100 euros on black, I'm ready to lose that. Obviously, it would hurt me if I lose that, but I'm ready to lose that. So the message here is, if you start off with an idea and you're not sure if it's worth it, constrain the resources you're going to spend. It's okay to be wrong if you're okay with what you're going to lose. Right? So the only thing you can control when you start off with a new idea is how much time and effort you put into it. It's not the potential outcome. It's not like, oh, we're going to have hundreds of thousands of users and we're going to be the next unicorn. No way to influence that. But you can influence how much time you will spend. If you feel like you have a great idea and you start exploring a solution, you should always take the downside, this downside of how much I'm going to spend as the mean of measurement, if it's worth it or not. as a summary, kind of, you don't know if an idea actually works, if it's actually a good idea before you test it out. And to test it out, you have to create a prototype. And if a prototype 6 weeks, test it and see it doesn't work, I lost 6 weeks, not more. But if I talk to people after a year of creating these amazing ideas in my head and thinking about it, and then after a year, I realized that nobody else cares about that, or that there's probably already somebody else doing it out there, I lost a year. So time box the time you spend in this ideation phase in the beginning. Make very simple paper prototypes of various solutions, how you might solve your problem you're tackling. And there is no right approach or right or wrong approach here. It's simply about evaluating how you feel with these different approaches on your problem and see their benefits and weak spots. Some versions might out, some versions might not work out at all. But you know, that's the point of this ideation process. If we go on in the R&D mode, research development into the prototyping cycles, it's all about getting comfortable with your idea. So let's say in the ideation mode, you tried out a few things, time constrained, but let's say you decided on one option you want to go for, and you put some prototyping time in. What's a valuable learning here is focus down on your core feature your service does and do nothing else in this R&D phase in the very beginning. I don't know if you know Basecamp. It's a pretty cool example because they're a great product design agency from Chicago, and they're right now building a new email client. And in their case, they're building an email software, and the core feature of an email software is they want to receive an email, right? And that's it. That's what they build in this prototyping phase. They build a thing that can receive email. And only in the second step, if that works, you want to probably reply to that email. That's the starting point. And it's about choosing these essential parts and creating a frame, what you can in a later stage, fill up with all these nice to have features. Probably at some point you want to edit some text, or you want to add a footer in your email. But right now we know it has to receive email. We don't know yet if feature X or Y, Z makes sense, but we'll try them out and see if they work. So in this research and development phase, it's not about shaping something that will be delivered in the end. It's researching and exploring things that might be important features later on. So the tricky part here is to decide which are the core features and which are the things you want to try out, especially when you work with several stakeholders like we did with Tweaker. We were 5 people, we were 5 classmates, friends, and I guarantee you it will be tricky. It will be a tricky exercise to disagree and to reach a decision when you discuss what feature to execute or what direction to take. And we had so many discussions here that I quickly want to talk about this. And there is I can't promise too much. There obviously are going to be a lot of discussions, but a few important things when you discuss on how to proceed and on which features to focus on in this prototyping phase. When you discuss your goal, your goal should never be a consensus. The goal when you're discussing features is a shared understanding of an idea. We all contribute, like we were designers and developers and designers from different aspects, and we all contribute different aspects that mold this idea in different directions. Ideas are here to be ripped apart and see what the gold nuggets are. Also, there is no point in no, I wouldn't do it this way, but I come along with you attitude. We had it a lot, but it's not like, that's not the point. It should always be, let's find together what this should be. Keep that in mind. When you work in a team, you play a game of disagree and commit. On one time, I might be, look, this isn't how I would do it, but it's your judgment, and I trust you on that. I'm all in with you, and I want to see how this works. It's like, yeah, but what's important here is to know when you evaluate. So if you time box these tryouts and prototype your discussion, and after 6 weeks you realize that it does not work at all, it's okay, because you just lost 6 weeks. But if we just have this discussion about a feature and we implement it, and then after half a year we see that it didn't work, then we lost 6 months. And then it's much harder to say, yes, let's try it in these discussions. Also, third point, let's be very clear about what your debate is. There is like in a very broad sense, there's always two kinds of discussions. There's a discussion of, is this the right solution? Or does this feature even matter? Do we agree on the problem? So for example, Toby was one of our developers when we're building Tweaker. And if I had, some random feature idea in the shower and I pitched it to him, he would usually, shoot it down as a developer because it might not work technically because he's concerned about X, Y, or Z or something. But that's a big difference than him saying, this is a problem, this problem doesn't matter, and I don't think it's valuable trying to solve that. For the first response, I can go back to the drawing board, and try to approach it from a different angle and work out a compromise, which might be less complicated technically. But for a second response, I know what I'm up to, right? So he doesn't think that this is even a thing worth exploring. Also, most of the ideas actually don't happen. We had so many feature ideas, and you don't want to get attached to any of those, because if I bring an idea in and Toby cuts it in half and takes the thing we actually need, that's awesome. We all represent, again, different expertise here, and the best thing that could happen if we all come together and improve our product. Ideas are kind of, this analogy of ideas are wet clay to play with. And if I bring in an already dry piece of clay in it, then it's a very hard argument you're gonna have. And obviously don't bring your ego to the table. What is funny, you have these great ideas and these ideas might always be different depending on your timing. The market conditions are different every time. And maybe if you sleep over it, you disagree with yourself at the next day. So don't bring your ego to the table when it's deciding on these features. All right, this was a quick excursus. Let's go here back. We had a vision. We ideated on a few things. We did the first rigid structure around our product. We have prototyped the first basic functions and features of our thing. And now we go into production mode. And this is where the fun part begins. The core architecture is clear. The basic features are built. The boundaries are set. And that's the point when you think about all these nice features you could fill in. And you can make very deliberate bets on it. So you've got a nice structure. You fill in the blank spots. And before that, there is no point of brainstorming 100 features. You're just going to throw them out again. But here, that's all about filling in your core thing with cool ideas. But again, here, time constraint, because if a feature doesn't work, you will immediately realize it after 5 or 6 weeks or something, however you work. All right, and again, I quickly want to go into this decision making here. As in the production phase, we will again have many feature discussions involved. And questions are like, what are the right things to fill in the blank spots? What are the features we want to do? And when you debate about this, never lose touch of your objective, what you're trying to solve. This was a very important learning I only had afterwards in retrospect, but I give a few examples of objective measures when making these design decisions. I'm a kind of a design enthusiast, and for me, everything beautiful is, it's the way to go, but that's a trap you can easily tap into. The learning was, for me, convenience or usability are not objective measures. You can't count on convenience or usability. This is not, you don't want to make your product convenient or user-friendly. All of us at Tweaker, okay, this is a bold statement, but all of us at building Tweaker, we were either designers or engineers. And in our meetings, we were like, it has to be easy, it has to be convenient, it has to be fast. Well, guess what? I already spoiled it, it doesn't. Easy and convenient are not subjective measures when you look at great products. It's a long stretch now, but take an instrument, take, I don't know, a violin, play to learn the violin. It's a beautiful thing, a beautiful product, but that's not convenient to learn at all. It takes years to master that. So convenience is not an inherent good. If you look at the true objectives, you need to trace it back to the context. Why are people using this thing? And that's where you have to just look when you decide on which feature is better than the other. For example, security is a topic like that. Security, like people often frame it as good and bad. Security is good, but it's not convenient. Well, that's not true. Guess what? It comes back to why the person is using your product. It comes back to the problem you're trying to solve. Security, people on the one side and designers on the other side. And I'll give you an example how to balance your decision on that scale. If your product is called the most dangerous secret journal, then you can put 3 extra locks and a 2-factor authentication on it. And it might be inconvenient, but for this specific product, for your most dangerous secret journal, that's not convenient. That's why people buy your damn product, right? So people perceive this inconvenience as more valuable and not inconvenient. On the other hand, customers might not care about data security at the moment, but if there is a blow up, like a data leak or something, we and they might never recover from that. But it depends on what service you have. In the case of social media, nobody cares, nobody bothers if there's a data leak. We all saw that. But in the case of a bank account, obviously everybody cares. So you got to ask the question, how valuable or dangerous is your product, and not how convenient or inconvenient is it for the users. Convenience is not a measurement. Security becomes inconvenient if I have to use 2-factor authentication, with a retina scan and additional app to unlock my Zoom call, because in a Zoom call, I just want to listen and talk to people. There's no point of protecting that. But if I log into my George account from my Erste Bank app, I sure do want 2-factor authentication. And that's not inconvenient there. So in conclusion, look at the context of what you're doing, what people value and why you face this decision to base your decisions on when you're creating new features. All right, and finally, shipping comes along. It's a healthy plan it's healthy to plan in some weeks after you finished up to polish up all the loose ends that might still be there. If you set on a release date, make sure that there is enough spare time in between to polish up your product. For example, that's not what I did for this webinar. I just finished yesterday evening. So now here I am a bit winging the whole thing. But from there on, after you launch, you basically repeat your cycles with new features, right? You get a feeling of your users, you ask them what they like and what they see and what they don't like. And based on that, you'd start growing. You start shipping new features, you start shipping new versions, one batch after the other. In the sense of, like I talked about digital products right now, but in the sense of an event, for example, you evaluate after the event, you adapt it, and then you increase the value for the next event. So to sum this up here in recap, in the beginning, you have an idea, but you don't have no idea if that might work out. You try a bunch of different angles on that idea. You build a very basic feature and see if that works. And once you've got your basic frame on your product, you fill in the blank spots in between. Be careful about making decisions here. Always restrict your time resources. That's I talked a lot about that, and you can guess it's probably where we lost a lot of time when we built Tweaker. And evaluate the results in quick iterations. That quick repeating structure also gives you confidence in trusting decisions, when you have these discussions, because you'll see anyways in 6 weeks how this decision went. Take some time in the end to polish everything before it's the due day to launch, and then repeat. I think it's very clear, all this process, if you look at software products like Tweaker, we did, but it's also true with events or talks. This webinar, as I told you, it grew through the same process. We had a bunch of different ideas. I evaluated with colleagues what might be a good thing. I had a broad concept and the outlines, and then I filled in the blank spots in between. I filled in the content. Yeah, so, but that's a learning, yeah, right. Okay. All right, I'm already in the end. I think I talked very fast. So if you've got any questions, I'm also going to be at the Vienna bootcamp of the Moonshot Pirates. So if you're there too and want to onboard me in advance, just text me on the Slack channel or email me. A lot of these resources and a lot of the things I talked about, I'm a big advocate for Twitter. And if you just go on my Twitter handle and see who I am following, you get a really good sense of the industry leaders in all this product strategy industry out there. So yeah, that's about it. Also, quick note in the end: the Off Vienna is not happening this year, unfortunately, to Corona. But check it out, and we will definitely share also a few deals for you, Moonshot Pirates, on their channels. Yeah. that's about it. So thanks for this session, and shoot me any questions if you have one.
So yeah, once again, hey, thanks a lot for sharing all your insights here. It was a brief introduction, but very quick introduction into a design process. And also, I really appreciate you sharing, how you actually work with your team during this whole process, because I think this is one of the most important things. So whatever you're building to, because you can have the most amazing product, but if the team doesn't work properly and doesn't allow themselves for feedback, this is where it all kind of breaks. So thanks a lot for also sharing this, intimate insights into your work. We have some questions coming in actually. And the first one would be from Clemens, and he is asking, if you could start Twicker again, how would you manage it this time?
That's always a hard one. It's been a long time, but again, the learning, I think the most valuable learning for me was this quick iterations, this time boxing, and having this fixed structure of, I know I'm working in a 4-week cycle, for example, and I'm going to decide on a handful of features and then do them in this cycle. And then in the end, I'll test them and try if they work out. And if not, we'll just leave them and continue forward to the next ones. Because we spend so much time of unnecessary discussions. And once we decided on something, we did something with it, but then the same discussion would come up again 3 weeks later. And there is no point of that. We had this discussion already 3 weeks earlier. And if there is this structure of cycles you go through, you can really also these discussions become a lot more reliable when you say, okay, let's do this feature. And anyways, in a month, we see how it worked out. And then you're much more likely to disagree and to agree in these discussions.
Sure, thanks a lot. Another question from Anonymous, so whoever it might be, is asking, what's your favorite product based on the things you talked about?
What's my favorite product? That's a hard one. I quickly talked about Basecamp and their mail service. It's not about, I don't use their products in that way. I use a few of their products, but I really like how they work internally. And as I told you in the beginning a bit what a product is, a product can also be how teams work internally. Like how the structure of how a company works together.
Culture kind of thing.
A company culture kind of things, right? So a company culture is also in some sense a product. And I've been following those folks for a long time now, and I really like they set the bar of a company culture on a very high level.
That's amazing. I think people are very creative today with their questions. So another question is coming from Sebastian, and he is asking, if you had endless resources to develop a digital product, what would it be and why?
Yeah, very creative questions and a very broad questions. Damn. Right now, I would focus on upcoming trends like augmented reality. That's one of the areas where I personally am very interested in right now. Like the internet came up and it introduced so much opportunities for so many ventures. And I think this was a big platform which moved a lot of businesses online. Then mobile came up, and this is also big, like we have a computer in our pockets. So this was a big transition of ventures and products that are out there. And for me, I think in the next 10 years, the next big platform in that sense of the internet will be augmented reality. Like if you have the Google glasses were the first early prototypes 10 years ago, but augmented reality in the sense of I can map digital products into my physical real world around me. And I see so much potential in there that I have no idea what this digital product might be, what you ask, Sebastian. But I'm sure I'm very certain that this world of augmented reality is going to be a very big area for all designers and for all product developers that is about to come.
Okay, that's great. Maybe a question from me. I mean, you are relatively young, you're 20 years old, and you have been accepted to one of the best universities for design. You are working with companies like Red Bull and Siemens on cool projects. How did you get to design? What brought you there? Was there is there someone in your family who is a designer, or why are you so passionate about this topic, and what brought you there?
I think what I'm passionate about is my school. I went to the Grafische in Vienna, which is basically a school for design and media technologies. And in the beginning, I wasn't so passionate about it. It was just like a cool high school. But growing together with a bunch of friends and really diving into these topics, I have no idea why we started building these products, but we started off as school projects, building these digital products. And in that group dynamic, a lot can happen if you're in a nice team and you're in this flow state of just going for it and seeing where it leads. And I think that was a big influence why and how a lot of things happened and will happen. But yeah, I hope that's a good answer for that. But
definitely just gather a group of friends and
gather a group of friends that are like-minded and strive for the same things and have similar values for you, right? Yeah. If you're surrounded with people who are motivated and strive for cool things, then obviously that's the only thing you're going to do.
Yeah, for that maybe a little bit of insights. Actually, yesterday evening we launched a new initiative for young people between 15 to 19. It's called the Be a Pirate Challenge, which is like a 3-week online program for young people who want to change something in our world, who want to make the world a better place and create their own solutions. And during this program, we will share different videos from different mentors. We will have online mentoring. And in the end, basically, it's going to be who was at some of our bootcamps. It's very similar process, just online, where you can develop your own idea. And in the end, a team will be selected to actually go to the epicenter of innovation to Silicon Valley for 1 week. And I'd like to invite you all to check it out. Just go to moonshotpirates.com/challenge and sign up. The program is completely free. It's we have amazing people who will share their insights, and it's really worth it. So
I have to say I've been to one of the brainstorming sessions of this program at one point, and it's like a really cool opportunity you're providing here. Like it's a nice aspiring goal for it's a nice starting point if you just want to start something for, I don't know, you don't see where it's going, but if you have something like that, that's a big motivation, I think.
Definitely.
For many.
I mean, first of all, it can help you to actually develop an idea. So if you don't have an idea yet, you can join. But if you already have some, you can still go there and improve it. Maybe one last question here is, again, from someone who wants to stay anonymous, but what do you do to stay up to date with current trends? Do you have any tips?
I'd say 3 things. On one hand, current trends are always based on history. Current trends are always based on things that already happened. So there's so many great design books out there and strategy books out there. So read. That's point number 1. And when it's getting more into the current trends, then definitely there is, on one hand, surround yourself with people, with like-minded people that are in the same thing, in the same area, the same bubble, and talk to them. Great discussions and great learnings get out of these discussions. And the third step, I already mentioned that I'm a big Twitter advocate. I've tried to follow as many leaders in these areas worldwide as possible. And this is just a constant daily flow of new trends and things that are happening, and it's a cool community on Twitter.
Okay. Can you maybe recommend a specific book that you find helpful, or books that you find helpful?
Paul, you're putting me on the spot right now. I will let's look like that. I'll have a look after this and send it to you, Annette, and then you can implement it in the blog post later.
Okay, that's
because
great.
There's so many.
Yeah, Toby, once again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you all for being with us today. And yeah, take care.
Oh,
Have a nice afternoon.
thanks.
Bye.